Hey everyone, it's Pastor Dan, and I've got a real treat for you here today. In just a moment, I'm going to Zoom conference with my best friend, Scott Iken. Many of you have heard me talk about him before, so this is your chance to see who he is. Let's tune in. All right, everyone, it's Pastor Dan, and I am joined with my best friend, Scott Iken, of many, many years, coming to us from Wyoming. Tell my friends what you're doing in Gillette, Wyoming.
Gillette, Wyoming, which we fondly call G-Town. G-Town, Calvary Church G-Town. That's how we talk about it. But you're right, bud. I mean, once we went to Wyoming when we were in Jackson. If any of you know about Jackson, Jackson is obviously a very unique city. It's beautiful mountain town. It's a unique part of Wyoming. A lot of people from Wyoming say, "Oh, well, that's not Wyoming." That's what they say. But nonetheless, when we were there, our heart grew for Wyoming. We loved Jackson, but we just all of Wyoming. Our heart grew for the state. It's a humble state. It's I call it an underdog kind of state. And our time there, we loved it. When we went back to Colorado for a time, we always wondered if God would bring us back to Wyoming in one way or another. So that was in our heart, that was in our prayers, and we always kind of stayed open to it. I don't know, after being at a church plant in Littleton for 5 years, which was awesome. We loved it. There was nothing negative, had a great time. So fortunate, but a friend of mine had reached out to us about Gillette, and this church building that I'm in right now actually was sitting empty for about 3 years. It was a church building. Sadly, it closed, and so this building was just sitting here empty. And a friend who worked with the North American Mission Board brought it up to me, and so Pam and I, actually for our anniversary weekend, we came to Wyoming, and we came to Gillette and just prayerful about it. We got the keys to this building that's been shut down. The heat was off, and it was cold, but we came in and just prayed, and we loved it, and we just saw potential, and prayed a lot. Went back a couple weeks later, brought our kids back here, and we all prayed as a family. Learned as much as we could about the town and just dreamed together. And ultimately, we felt like God was leading us here. And we've loved it. We're excited to be here.
So let me set the scene for those who don't know the Ikens. You've got 4 kids, and your family is essentially your worship team. They help you lead. They help you lead worship. So you've got the worship team that's going to Gillette with you. Who else did you know in Gillette when you guys moved there to start a church? What was your base?
Well, so when we got here, the first thing we did was we just tried to get acclimated to the town. We got the kids in school, and we started just trying to meet as many people as we could. We hung out at a lot of coffee shops, all the school events. We're trying to meet as many people as we can. We did, Dan, honestly, a ton of just praying. Lord, we need your help. We need your help to meet people, and we need your help to grow this church. And one of the early connections, as I said, was at that coffee shop, Kay's Coffee and Deli. When we finally did some of our first gatherings before we were meeting every week, we did some initial kind of worship gathering, prayer times, and we ended up doing the first 3 at that coffee shop. First time we met there at that coffee shop, if I recall, I believe it was either 15 or 18 people came for that first gathering. And then, second, third, kind of same type of thing, where just people we were meeting. In the meantime, we started doing a lot of work on the building because the building needed a lot of love. It had been sitting empty. So we had a few mission teams come and help us in the summertime. Yeah, bud, we meet at 3:48 p.m. on Sundays. I know, strange time, 3:48 p.m. That is based off of Psalm 34:8, which is taste and see that the Lord is good. Oh, the joys of those who take refuge in him. One of the things we saw as we were just observing Gillette and praying about what we were seeing in Gillette was we just saw there is a need for people in Gillette to see how good God is, to see the joy that is found in God, that as we take refuge in him. So that verse just resonated with us, Psalm 34. I'm going to show you. Here's our little card. And it says, together, let's taste and see that the Lord is good. Oh, the joys of those who take refuge in him. And so, yeah, we just decided, you know what? It's crazy, but we're going to meet Sunday afternoons at 3:48. And together, we're going to taste and see that God is so good. There's such joy in him. Yeah, that's been our goal. We did Facebook Live even when we were still meeting together, just for, to encourage those who maybe couldn't meet at the time. We have here in this town, we have workers, that work in mines, and their schedules can vary. So it's nice too that they could, participate Facebook Live. So we were fortunate to have that in place, but yeah, for the last 3 weeks, that's all we've been doing is Facebook Live. Again, we're fortunate that the band is our family, so we can kind of stay together and lead it still as a family. And we have 4 kids, as Dan brought up. Our oldest, Addie, she's 20, and she now is at University of Wyoming. And so we, on a normal basis, unless it's summertime, we don't have her. But when she's with us, she's in the band too. She plays piano. So she's been back because of school is done for the rest of the year. It's done in person. It's going on online, but we have her back. So we have the full family band, which includes Addie playing piano, and she can sing too. She's growing in that. It's awesome. And then Seth, who's our oldest son, he's 18, he's our drummer. And then Reese, my other son, who's 16, is our bass player, and he plays horn. And even Sadie, who's our youngest, she's 12. She's starting to get in there in the mix a little too. She's a great singer. And so my wife is actually a really gifted musician too, but she used to be a first chair violinist, but she doesn't do that much anymore. But she's the brains behind it all. She does all of our tech. She's pretty techy. She's very detailed. She makes it all happen. She does a ton of it. So yeah, it's fun to have our family as a team. No doubt about it.
Yeah, that's great. I'd just say something about Seth, the drummer. Seth was drumming from a really early age because I've even Addie, I've known Addie since she was born. I think I first met her when she was a couple months old. And same with Seth. And Seth was drumming from an early age. Like at age 4, Seth was a cute drummer who was pretty good. By age 6,
yes,
I'm not joking, I would have taken Seth as the drummer of any church that I was at. He was that good. He was incredible then. I can only imagine what he's like now. And I can only imagine what it's like to have your family be up there with you leading worship. You're an incredible worship leader, and now you've got the homegrown band with you. And it's fun stuff. Yeah.
It's I can't tell you what a gift it is. I mean, honestly, it's the fact that my kids want to do it with me I mean, it blows my mind all the time. I mean, it's funny when we sent Addie off to college. I mean, it was hard enough just, you're a dad and you're saying bye to your daughter and you're excited, but you're sad. And then there was the element of you add to it that she was a bandmate. She's been a bandmate for years. So it was also saying bye to a ministry partner. So it's actually a blast having her back right now.
Yeah.
And Dan, you're right. My Seth, the drummer, I taught him a little, and then he way passed me. Like he's just, it's a gift from God. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's really fun.
So
Really.
last Sunday online, we've been going through Genesis and we've been talking about the fall, and this is going to lead up to Easter this Sunday. But last Sunday, just kind of coincidentally, a lot of the focus was on broken relationships. So Adam and Eve sinned, and that broke their relationship with the Lord. It also kind of hurt their relationship with each other. And then that brokenness got passed down to their kids, and you've got Cain and Abel, and that's kind of the ultimate broken relationship. And part of why I wanted to get together with you like this, buddy, was just to be able to say, we're going through the word and we're talking about broken relationships, but even in a fallen world, godly relationships are still possible. And
Yes.
Proverbs 27:17 has always been our theme verse, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And so what's your earliest memory of you and I starting to become buddies?
I love it, man. Yeah. Yeah. Just so you all know, I mean, Dan and I have known each other since we were little kids. I mean, we grew up going to church, and as little kids, it was sort of like, hey, in the hallway passing by. But when I was a freshman in high school and Dan was a senior, we were in youth group together. And what comes to my mind, Dad, is you being awesome. I remember you coming to youth group and you wanted to show us a movie you made, just with a home video, this Superdog. I think it was a Superdog, right?
It was,
And
yeah.
you showed that, man, and I thought it was the coolest thing. It just so cool how you put that together and edited that whole thing, and back then we didn't have all the tools that we have now at
No.
all. I mean, you were using like 2 VCRs, I mean, but I thought it was so cool. And I remember, saying to you, dude, hey, if you need somebody in a movie, invite me, and I remember that kind of connected us. We started, what did we start working on? Was it Batman and Robin?
It was Batman. It was Batman, and you were Robin. I was going to show a picture, but I'm not going to do that. But I've got the evidence. But
Awesome.
yeah,
Dan
was
was the legendary Batman.
No, I wasn't Batman then. I was Joey was Batman, and I was Two-Face.
That's right. That's right.
So we weren't even partners, but I needed a Robin, so we got you dressed up, and we would. This is the part I'm going to put it out there. It's hard to share this part because I don't want to give people ideas, but you and I would sneak into the church.
Right.
We would sneak into the church in the middle of the night on weekends, and we would film these things. I mean, it was a 3-story church, and we're running throughout the entire building. We're dressed up, and we're doing all of this. And I really feel like where our friendship started was one weekend, for whatever reason, like Joey and Brian weren't available, so we weren't going to do any filming. And you called me up and you said, all right, are we filming tonight? And I said, no, we're not doing. And you said, well, let's get together anyway, and let's just do something. And that kind of started this, I don't know, this journey of friendship. We kept making movies. We did Terminator. That was our next movie. And then we did other things. And I went off to college. And my first year of college was just at a state school until I got called into ministry. And I remember asking you about that same time, what about you, buddy? Do you think you're going to go into ministry? And the first time I asked you, and you said no. And then one summer, I was off in Othello, Washington, and you called me up and you said, I was wondering if I could come spend the weekend with you because I think the Lord might be calling me into ministry.
Mm.
And so you drove, you met me up there. That was a 6-hour drive, which was a big deal for us at that time. And
Yeah.
that kind of then started you down this path. You
Oh,
came and joined me at a Christian college. We were roommates, and we did all kinds of crazy things together.
well, and let me brag on this guy. That just so everybody knows. So when we met, and I was a freshman, you know, Dan was further along in his faith. I mean, Dan was fun and everything, but pretty mature in his faith as a senior in high school. And I was kind of a punk. I was, a jock, way into sports, and but I saw Jesus in you, bud. I mean, I didn't know it back then. I didn't have all the words, but I saw Jesus in you, and that drew me to you. And so, though there was the movie making, I know you and I have talked about this. It was really the Lord
Yeah.
shining, and I remember I would ask you questions that I felt like I couldn't talk to my other friends about it. And I would ask you stuff, and we just had we would laugh a ton and be so silly, but we would have deep conversations, even as high schoolers. And I was drawn to that. And, just anyone that might hear this, God used you, buddy, to grow me in the Lord a ton, to think more seriously about God, and get more excited about church. And there's no doubt about it. When you went off to Northwest Christian College, and then I visited you there one time when I was still in high school, but I made a decision pretty quick. Like, I want to go, even though I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't plan on being a pastor, but I wanted to go be at that school too. And God used you, buddy, to sharpen me a ton and to help lead me into a closer walk with Christ. There's no doubt about it. And,
Well, I think it goes both ways. I just remember nights when I was single. You were married, but um, for a while you didn't have kids, or maybe Addie was kind of there. And this was before the days of texting. And you and I would just email each other, but it was like texting. I mean, just I'd get an email and I'd immediately write you back. And we'd talk about the messages we were preparing. We'd talk about ideas. And when you were living in Denver, no matter where I was in Washington, I was in Montana, I was in Oregon, you were always my destination point when it came time for vacation. And part of that was because you were my best friend, but part of that also was the ministry you were doing. Just spiritually, that filled me, and I loved being where you were doing ministry, because the ministry was ministering to me. I loved it when we were living in the same town for a while. We got to do ministry together. I cringe a little bit when you talk about answers I used to give you, because they probably weren't theologically on point at that time, but God is good and the Holy Spirit is good,
He's
and
kind.
and
He's gracious. You
patient.
gave a lot of great answers, but by His grace, hopefully we've both grown, since that time.
Your favorite Dan and Scott story?
Oh man, there's a ton of them, bud. Let's see. You and I mentioned this the other day because I thought about it with my own kids. Here's just a funny story. So Dan and I used to have issues going through drive-throughs together. We would go we'd go through a McDonald's drive-through. We'd start laughing. It was usually my fault trying to make you laugh. And I one time driving up, and I think I yelled something like burger sauce or something. You started laughing, and we had to leave. We had to leave the drive-through. I think a couple times.
I couldn't talk. I was sitting there laughing, and nothing would come out. So I would take off, and then we'd try to do it again.
So it became legendary anytime we'd go through a drive-through. And then you probably remember the one time we decided to drive through the drive-through backwards.
Backwards. Yes.
So it was the weirdest thing because people are staring at us while we're sitting in line. And we were both just kind of looking down, and it was an awkward moment. We've had many good ones. What do you think of, bud?
So I think of a time I came to visit you in, and there are two parts of this story. I think of a time I came to visit you in Denver, and you picked me up from the airport. We haven't even gotten to your house yet, and already we've started laughing. And you were driving, and whatever we were laughing about, I just remember I was doubled over laughing, and then you in the driver's seat just started saying, I can't see, because you were laughing so hard. Take the wheel, I can't see. And we went to a restaurant, and we met your wife Pam at this restaurant. And I mean, this sounds funny. I was blessed with who you married because she became a friend of mine too. So I was always excited, not just to see you, but to see Pam. And then your kids were an important part of my life. But we get to this restaurant, and it's you, me, and Pam. And you and I are still laughing. And I was quite a bit younger then, so I didn't have the decorum in public that I should have now. And we're laughing, and we knew that everyone was kind of looking at us. It was lunchtime, and people were kind of looking over at us. And all of a sudden, Pam says out loud, to no one in particular, just to the entire restaurant, she says, "The crazy thing is they're not drunk." And there's this audible gasp from the entire restaurant that two guys would laugh that hard and not be on something to make them laugh.
Yes, bud. We've always been good at cracking up together. That's been one of the blessings of our friendship. Just real quick, so you all know, we were leading hymns. Dan was a better worship leader at that time, especially. I didn't know a lot of these hymns. We were trying to lead. We got to one part, it's too high. I didn't know the hymn. I just started laughing, and I left it all to Dan. I kind of just
and you didn't just start laughing. So the thing with hymns is, because I love hymns.
Absolutely.
Hymns were not written for basses to lead.
That's right.
Unless you're doing it a cappella, but we had either the piano or the organ. So I was stuck to that, and it went far above. So I was kind of relying on my best friend Scott to take over the high points. And I drop out, and Scott starts laughing. So he just turned around in worship, turned around, and stood there next to me laughing in front of, this is Sunday morning, 300 people in the church, and he has it back to them because he's laughing.
This is not the best worship leading of all time, but good memories nonetheless.
Good times. Well, buddy, thank you for joining us here. Thank you. We're not going to show all of this, but we had some interesting technical stuff to make this work, but we powered through. I love you. I love your family. I miss your family, and it's great. Social media is allowing us to reconnect in a way that even 15, 20 years ago, we definitely could not have done. So through that, I've kind of been able to see your kids grow up a little bit. One of my great disappointments is that your oldest daughter is going to the University of Wyoming after I moved away from Laramie. I know. Really sweet.
Oh man, she would have been at your church all day. No doubt.
Yeah.
Hey, I want you to know I love you, bud, and I want everyone to hear this that tunes in. You guys are so blessed to have Dan. As a pastor, as a man, and Cheryl. They're great people. I love you guys. Miss you dearly. Awesome to do this. So be encouraged that you have such a great guy that I love very much.
I'm hoping to get you guys up here sometime.
I would love it. I want to do it. I want to see Maine, so I want to come visit. We'll figure out a way eventually.
Yeah. So where do people find you on Facebook?
Yep. If they go to Calvary Church Gillette. Yep. Or you can find it through our website, Gillette www.thecalvary.org.
Okay. Well, everyone, this is my best friend, Scott. We have been friends for 30 years now, which is crazy to think about. So, buddy, as part of our friendship a few years ago, you and you're a songwriter and you're writing songs all the time. And me, not so much, but there have been a couple times that you and I have sat down and together we've worked out a song together. You and I wrote a song together once called Through the Years. And
Yes.
the song it was kind of two things. It was about our friendship, but it was also about just God's faithfulness with us.
Yes.
Now, I do not have a recording of you and I singing it together, but I do have a recording of it, of me singing it with someone else back when I was doing more music. And so, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to end this video with that recording there. It's not you, it's not quite the same, but as a song, it's a testament to our friendship.
I love it, man. That's awesome.
Hey, buddy, thank you for joining us, and
My pleasure, bud. Love you.
love you too. All right, take care.
Looking back on the road of my life, and all the things I see, I can't say that I always realized that it was you. Oh, you. Now I know that your hand was always there, protecting me. Through the years, you've been there for me. Through the tears, you have guided me. You are the evidence of things that I hope for. You're my conviction of the things that I have seen through the years. There were times when my light didn't always shine bright for you. But I can see you were there for me all the time. Through the years, you've been there for me. Through the tears, you have guided me. Like a light in the dark, you shined away from me. Now all I want to do is live my life for you. Through the years, you've been there for me. Through the tears, you have guided me. All the evidence of things that I hope for. You're my conviction of the things that I have seen.